Good morning.
All right.
In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conduct its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Mr. Chairman, the meeting is yours.
Thank you, Freddie. Michael, want to call the roll, please?
Bowen.
Present.
Downing.
Present.
Fluker.
Present.
Curry.
Present.
Hall.
Present.
Slife. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Michael. The first is a zoning map amendment. It's an unnumbered ordinance. It's establishing an urban form overlay on the Chester Avenue frontage of permanent parcel number 118-10042. Shannon, you going to speak to this one?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I must recuse myself. Thank you.
Okay, so you're obviously working on it? Okay, go ahead.
All right, Shannon Leonard, City Planning. Next slide, please. So this project this is a specific rezoning here regarding the Chester and East 75th Street, Chester 75 multifamily housing unit for 75 or 56 units that was approved by you all previously. And the purpose really here is to make sure that they can move forward with the site plan that was approved by you all in the design review committee. Next slide, please. Again, they have a front yard setback issue. And so really this is just going through the code discussing what residential setbacks or requirements are. If there are vacant lots around it, then it's a 15% of the average depth of the lot. Next slide, please. We did consider it a map setback here since it's one parcel, but because Chester Avenue is such a large street and there's a lot of vacant properties surrounding this one, we decided that an urban form overlay here would be a better solution, being that it is on the southern border of the new form-based code pilot HUF program. Next slide, please. And so we're really proposing the urban form overlay here because we're hoping that in the future we'll probably work with the planner and the councilman to extend the urban form overlay further east and west along Chester Avenue. This is important also because along Chester Avenue there are no actual physical addresses. So the address for this property is actually along East 75th Street. The urban form overlay, as you know, supports walkable neighborhood and mixed-use districts. It encourages alternative transit methods, establishes strong urban form by improving building design and creating more walkable areas, as well as it builds a street wall with a setback. So it allows it has a minimum setback and a maximum setback instead of going the average 15% of the average depth of the lot. Next slide, please. And so this is the project site here. Again, it's along, the address they were given is along East 75th Street. According to our survey department, there are no Chester Avenue addresses. Next slide. And so the proposal here is to add the urban form overlay along Chester. That would allow them to be able to build to the property line that they would like to build to, as well as with the urban form overlay frontage line along Chester. Along East 75th Street, they would be able to build from 0 feet to a maximum of 8 feet, and along Chester, 0 feet to a maximum of 6 feet, as Chester would be technically their secondary frontage as their address is on East 75th Street. Next slide, please. And so this is just giving you some context photos along the street. As you can see, the lot sizes here are very deep. We're going 200 feet north to south and 174 feet east to west. And so the average front yard setback north of this property is around 30 feet plus. The maximum the code requires you at 15% of the average depth of the lot or alignment is 30 feet. Next slide, please. And so here you'll notice that the proposed setback that was approved by city planning, the front setback along Chester was 3 feet, and the front setback along East 75th was 1.5 feet. And so by adding the urban form overlay, we believe that this will allow this site plan and this project to move forward to create Chester to be a more walkable street and more appealing to the neighborhood going forward. Next slide, please. And so that is the proposal here, just to add the urban form overlay along the southern property line along Chester. Immediately to the east, there are about 8 to 10 vacant properties that we're working with the councilman and the city planner to discuss extending the urban form overlay as a temporary fix until the form-based code pilot program is in place later this year or early next year. Any questions?
Commission members? So Shannon, going back to your statement in regards to the councilman and extending this, there wasn't an opportunity to do that at this time?
So there was an opportunity, but the biggest concern was holding up this project. They've been completely through city planning, and Board of Zoning Appeals is waiting to schedule them to make sure that this front yard setback issue is resolved, because the Board of Zoning Appeals doesn't have the ability to grant the front yard setback.
Is the councilman on the line? Maurice?
I'm not
It does
seeing
not look
him.
like it.
No.
Okay.
We did receive an email letter of support, and he was made aware of this from the last map change with the front yard setback issue along East 93rd Street.
All right, thank you. Commission members, any questions before I open it up? Okay, this is a zoning matter. I'm going to open it up to proponents, those people in favor of the zoning change, and then opponents, the people against the zoning change. We ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less so we can move on to other projects on our docket today. So proponents, people in favor of the zoning change.
Commissioners, this is Chris Shepton. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Famico's Foundation. I'm here today to speak on behalf of this project. As was mentioned, this is the previous Chester 75 project that's been in front of you and approved previously. It's a 56 unit building. We felt like the urban form overlay was the best way for us to be able to move this project forward and get the setback that we were looking for. And originally sitting down with city planning, Director Collier and his staff, one of the things that was asked of us as an organization when considering this project was to look at all 4 corners of the intersection at 75th and Chester. And so we feel like applying the urban form overlay to this particular parcel, in addition to continuing to spread the urban form overlay, will help to build density for this community. Actually, the 1-story building that you see there today is obviously not the original building that was there. And looking at historic photos, there was actually an apartment building on this site previously. And so we very much feel that this apartment building, in addition to applying the urban form overlay, will go a long way towards restoring the much needed density to this portion of Huff.
Thank you. Other proponents, people in favor of the zoning change?
We have Katie Gillette.
Go ahead, Katie.
Hello, good morning. This is Katie Gillette. I'm an architect of city architecture, and I just wanted to offer a couple words, mostly thanks to the city planning staff and working with us to establish the urban form overlay. You know, as we know, the city's zoning code is quite a bit antiquated, so it's great that there are these tools available to help, you know, create strong urban form in the right places. So just wanted to express our gratitude on our team's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents? People in favor? Anyone else, Maurice?
No, we have no one else.
Okay, opponents, people against the zoning change. Opponents.
I'm not seeing any hands.
No opponents. Okay, I close the public part of the meeting. Commission member, what's your pleasure?
I move approval for Lillian.
I second Downing.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes. Yes. You hear me?
Motion carries. Good luck. We move on to conditional use permit, and this is in the pedestrian retail overlay district. Shannon, are you doing this one too?
I am.
Go ahead.
All right, Shannon Leonard, City Planning. Just waiting on the presentation. Next slide, please. So this proposal here is at 785 to 791 East 185th Street. The proposal here is there are currently, I believe, 3 to 4 upstairs units. And on the bottom floor, it's their white boxing retail units. They're not currently occupied. And this was really started off as a fence application for the parking lot north of the building that you see here, and then realized that this was going to be used as a parking lot. So the applicant is making parking lot improvements. Next slide, please. And so basically they need a conditional use for the off-street parking as well as a driveway over public sidewalk here along East 185th Street. And so basically you just must consider if the size, shape, or layout does not permit placement of parking elsewhere, or if it's been demonstrated by the applicant that this parking or driveway would not jeopardize the continued occupancy of the subject property by uses suited to the PRO district. Next slide, please. And so this is their site plan. You will be seeing this applicant, I believe, further down in the near east or far east design review today. And so they're really proposing 10 parking spaces here to accommodate their current tenants do have parking in the rear at that garage. Any new tenants in the retail spaces on the first floor will need parking. From our code, there is a 33% reduction. The good news is this is the landlord that is coming before you all, rather than every time that a retail unit comes through, applicant would have to come back to you all for this parking here at this location. And so really you just must consider, again, the size, shape does not permit placement of parking anywhere else, and if it would not ruin the occupancy of the building. Next slide, please. And then the third conditional use that they need is really a building with an interior side yard of more than 44 feet in width and located within 40 feet of the street frontage. And as you can see, this building sits here on the corner. The parking lot would sit between them and I believe the standard. And basically the subject building will be occupied by residential units on the first floor, which would require the greater side yard area, or you approve the driveway from the previous conditional use. Next slide, please. And again, so they just need the 3 conditional use, off-street parking within the first 40 feet. As you can see, they can only fit 10 spaces in there as is. They have a driveway across a public sidewalk. And then they also have a building with an interior side yard of more than 4 feet. I believe Sharonda Watley, the neighborhood planner for this area, can give you a little bit more information, as well as potentially Laura Bala, the consultant that was hired by the councilman to work with tenants along East 185th Street to bring them in line with the PRO requirements. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Wanda. Are you on?
Good morning. My apologies. My mute button got stuck. So yes, we did take this to design review earlier this week. The design review committee was supportive of the design that you all will see later on in the meeting today. They did make some suggestions about the landscaping and the spacing of the plant materials as proposed by the property owner as well as Laura Bala. And they also made some suggestions about keeping the interior sidewalk open for maximum usability. Again, we are supportive of this application formally to establish a parking lot for this building here on the corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman, did you want to add anything? Councilman? Maurice, he's still on, isn't he?
I don't see his name, although he often calls in.
Oh, I thought he was on. Okay.
We
So
have
you
Laura-
open up to the public, huh?
We have Laura Bala had her hand raised.
Okay, well, I'm going to open it up to the public. So those people in favor of the change? Laura, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the councilman is aware of the project and supportive of it. And I wanted to thank Sharonda Watley and Shannon Leonard for their extensive help with the building owner as well.
Thank you. Other proponents, people in favor of the zoning change? Proponents?
I have no hands at this point.
Opponents, people against the zoning change. Opponents.
David, this is a conditional use. They just need 3 conditional use
Yeah,
permits.
conditional use.
Nope, still no hands.
All right, I'll close the public part of the meeting. Commission members.
I move approval. Downing.
I second Curry.
We have a motion and second. Further discussion. Call the roll, Michael?
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck. Lot consolidation, lot splits. The first one is permit parcel number 00701-071. This is at 4210 Orchard Avenue. Are we in a position to take this off the table, or are there people here to talk to this one?
Mr. Chairman, we do have Director Collier with his hand raised.
Go ahead, Director.
Yes, Chairman, this was the result of some kind of controversial dialogue with respect to the lot split here. And we wanted to work internally with Commissioner Vanover to really begin that process of better clarifying the process. And Mr. Fluker had brought up what we believe is a legit question about this particular case. And we do have Tom Vanover here to kind of speak to the building and housing building code aspect of that. So we thought it would be prudent to bring this back and have that conversation. So.
Okay, great. So I'll take a motion to remove from the table since we're going to discuss it.
I move that we remove it from the table, Downing.
Second, Fluker.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second to remove from the table. Michael, call the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, we can.
Okay, so this was I'll begin by saying that the Department of Building and Housing has no specific opinion on the address at 4210 Orchard Avenue. It's more of an overall overarching process issue. Historically, there has been and I'll call it a process because it was, although less than formal process, for the review of lot splits for all properties that have a structure on them. We've met internally and will be are in the process of publishing our process and how this should work. The code as it reads now allows for the department for the City Planning Commission, requires that the City Planning Commission approve lot splits that create substandard lots. What's lacking in the code and therefore needs administrative process is all the other things that come with a lot split. It's possible to have a lot split that doesn't create a substandard lot that still requires ultimate city planning approval, but it also requires other approvals from the Department of Building and Housing. Our expectation is that anytime a lot split is applied for that has a structure, and it's important to understand this is only if there's a building, an existing building on the lot, then it is submitted through our application, whether that be a commercial application or a residential application, for review by our zoning department to determine if density and setback issues are comply with the zoning code, and then for building code review to be sure that separations from property lines and the limitation on openings on or near the setbacks to the property line are all in compliance with the building code. This is to assure that we don't allow or that we mitigate the possibility of a property line being created in violation of the minimum setbacks of the building code and setbacks from the zoning code. So I know that this was a process that's been in place somewhat informally, and I think that with retirement from the Division of Plats or the Plats and Surveys unit, there was some confusion on how that gets done going forward. But our before you Planning Commission, they've come to us, and we've been able to we've provided our our review for the structure, and that's all I have.
So Tom, did you review this one?
We have not seen this one. I was looking it up. To my knowledge, we haven't received an application for it.
Okay, so your suggestion is that they should apply to Building and Housing for zoning review, and they can do zoning only, obviously. So they would apply for a zoning review, and then after that, come back to Planning Commission to have us look at it. So we know, if there's setback violations or things that have to do with life safety.
So it would be Yeah, for those with structures, Mr. Chairman, we would do both a zoning and building code review. Because it requires a building code review to determine the fire separation as well.
Okay, good.
And our expectation is to work with the Planning Commission to determine when in the process that happens, whether it be at the application to plats and surveys that they're routed to us for us to do our, for them to make application and for us to do it, and then you ultimately have either an approval. So the happy path would be that they send it to us, we do our zoning review and our plan review, and they receive an approval that can be presented to Planning Commission, and then you know that our regulatory portions are complete, and then you make the decisions based on Planning Commission criteria, or they, the less than happy path is if there is something that is non-compliant, they either get a variance for that, and that would be through BZA if it's a zoning issue, or BBS if it's a building issue. And then ultimately, they would then come to you with those items mitigated.
Yeah, because oftentimes there's a remedy, but it would be better if they had a remedy in place before they can go to us. So I agree with you. It should go to you first. And that's what was happening, as you said, as a matter of course before.
Mr. Chairman, we have August Fluker.
I
August, go
appreciate
ahead.
Mr. Vanover's explanation. I believe it's a sound approach. I would like to add one more step in that, so that we don't see any lot splits. So if someone applies to appear before planning, there needs to be some sort of a barometer or a checkpoint that before that even gets here. So in other words, if they don't answer all the questions, they don't provide all the approvals, then it never makes it to our agenda. So that needs to be clear across all channels. Thank you, in my opinion.
Thanks, August.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, Director Collier here. That is correct, but just keep in mind, because I want to make sure that it's clear, that would only be for the lots with structures.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that that's clear, but I think August is right here.
No, very clear.
So, Mr. Chairman, to both Mr. Collier and Director Collier and Mr. Fluker, I think that our expectation is that they're pass-fail. The questions. Question one: is there a structure on any of the parcels existing or created? If the answer is no, then it goes to Planning Commission. If the answer is yes, then it goes to the Department of Building and Housing for application for review of both zoning and building. And then when the next question is, has it been approved by the Department of Building and Housing, yes or no? Ultimately, there's remedy through variances if there's a problem. So you shouldn't receive anything that hasn't been approved by us. What is unclear is if there's a fatal flaw from our review that would prohibit the lot split. The question that we're trying to answer is, at that point, and I think we'll need all of the lawyers, your lawyers and our lawyers involved, as well as the lawyers from MOCAP, to determine if there's a fatal flaw, is there the authority to just simply not hear the case? Or do you hear the case and deny it accordingly? So that's kind of the process and the due process portion that we have to settle out still at this point.
And it sounds like you're already going through that process with the attorneys.
We are with I want to say yes because that's part of our plan, although we haven't engaged the counselors yet. Because we're in the process of publishing our steps for the purpose of distribution.
Okay.
So to speak to this particular property, our expectation would be that they make application with the Department of Building and Housing for the lot split, where we would do a zoning review and a building code review on this to make a determination of whether or not it meets the criteria of the code, at which point they can then present it to you.
Okay, Tom, so in them making application, what information are you looking for from them? Because some of these things are coming by property owners that aren't architects or engineers, and they don't know if they have a 2-hour rated wall or a 4-hour rated wall or a no rated wall. What do you expect from them?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we would expect, much like if the building was being constructed new, at least for that, at least for those items, we would need to know the construction type of the building. So we would need a site plan and a floor plan, and then the floor plan would require a code analysis that says this is the construction type, this is the rating, this is the percentage of openings on the sides of the building.
Okay, because that goes back to when someone comes to staff for a lot split and there's a structure or structures on the lot, then staff needs to let the applicant know what they expect to, what's going to be expected of them to make an application.
I think the
Mr. Chairman?
most efficient way to do that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to call to tell them that you had your hand raised.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Director.
Yes, the most efficient way to more than likely do that, and we can get into the process issues and internally with respect to flow. But typically when we deal with applicants, there's checklist. And I think that in the conversation with them when they submit, a checklist with those submission requirements would be, I think, appropriate for them to be able to understand what they would need for that building review.
Okay, so as far as this proposal goes, because obviously this one's still out there, is it best to table it until it comes back from Building and Housing, or deny it until it goes back to Building and Housing?
So in this case, because of the situation here, we wanted to bring this back so that we can be very transparent and answer directly the questions that were raised at the last meeting. We would suggest tabling it so that that review can occur, and then we can bring it back for the final decision.
Okay, good. Okay, commission members?
I move to table. Downing.
Second, Curry.
Motion and second, further discussion. So this is,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I just want to thank Freddie and Mr. Vanover for taking the time to outline this. This is helpful.
Thanks, August. So this is to table until a review from Building and Housing. So I'll call the question. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next is permanent parcel number 007020002. This is at 2055 West 44th Street. Who's here for this?
I
Good
believe
morning,
we have
Chairman.
Michael David.
This is Michael David from BR Connects Construction.
Go ahead, Michael.
We're here asking for a lot split of the above mentioned parcel 2055 West 44th Street. We are proposing to split the lot and construct 2 single-family homes on it. This is being done in conjunction with OCI and Tremont's Land Trust. So these are going to be 2 AMI houses. If you want to go to the next slide, that's the lot there. This is the proposed site plan. So there'll be 2 houses in the front and 2 parking pads in the back. There'll be 22.5 feet lots.
Questions? Commission members?
We have Director Collier.
Director?
Just a quick question, because I didn't get this before from the agenda. What's the distance between the 2 proposed houses?
Let me see if I can see that from the site plan.
Ben Trimble with his hand raised, Mr. Director.
It looks like 1.5 feet to the property line. Is that what
Mr.
that
Chairman,
says?
we have Ben Trimble.
Ben, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Chairman, so these are 2 houses that we are building with Canal through our Near West Land Trust, which is a permanently affordable model that we are starting on the Near West Side. We're actually breaking ground on our first home today on West 50th Street, and have a couple other homes actually already in for permit, this being 2 of them. The request to put 2 units here was actually at the behest of city planning and housing design review when we started this process a couple years ago, probably. We try to get as much space between units as possible to try to come as close as possible as meeting the code while still having a saleable unit. There is the distance between the 2 houses is 3 feet total, 1.5 to each property line. We are according to our architect, there is a provision in the code that if there is an easement given down the property line, that there won't be nothing built over that 1.5 foot on each side. We would not need a variance from the building code. They will also be rated walls also. Because the land will be held in a trust permanently, that even is not an issue for us. So we're already planning for that as part of the lot split. That's we tried to grant a little bit more room on either side of each house. So we gave 3 feet on each side of the house, and then had the 3 feet between the 2 houses.
So Ben, it looks like you're 4 feet from the house directly to the north of you. That's a home?
Yes, but they are right on the, they're right on the property line.
Yeah, no, I can see that for sure.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to point out that the side yards will require Board of Zoning Appeals variances for the between the 2 houses.
Okay, thank you. Commission members, what's your pleasure?
I have a question. I guess these are new structures, I suppose, right? And so you're creating this problem. And we just had this conversation before. If it's a vacant lot, you need to build to then you have to build to meet the code. And so again, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just trying to understand what this means. Just make the house a little more narrow. I don't know. It's just a question. Because we're actually going to approve a lot split potentially, and then they're going to go back and ask for variances. So just a thought.
But it's not building code variances, it's setback variances, it sounds like.
I understand. This zoning, I know. I understand that. I know that the building residential code's different than the building code. I get that. That's not my point.
No, I get what your point is. Ben, you wanted to talk about that?
So, so these were designed as prototypes, given sort of a more standard size lot. So we had come up with a number of prototypes that fit on an average size width lot in Ohio City. When we went through this process, we were asked to do 2 units, which kind of shrunk those setbacks. So I mean, we can go back and look at it, I guess. We're trying to reutilize the same sort of footprint that we have because that's what we have priced. We're trying to make these affordable with a very low subsidy model, and that's the issue. Or it's cost and design and timing on that.
I'm good with that. I just want to know why.
Yeah, I mean, normally I try not to create variants if we could, but we are kind of using an existing prototype that we have priced that we're very comfortable with, that meets the needs of our buyers, and just try not to increase more costs.
So Ben, because we didn't see it, how does this fit within the context of the street? Because the house next to it looks very large, and the one on the other side looks pretty large.
I think there's a
Mr. Chairman,
context. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say there's a couple photos in there that show the existing houses.
No, there's no photos. Oh, right there.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it looks like, Mr. Chairman, they're long. They're not necessarily incredibly large. Just seems like they're long. These, what size are the units, Mr. Trimble? I'm sorry.
These are just under 1,000 square feet.
Oh. So Ben,
and you asked
the reason we're into this is because you're using kind of a prototype house.
Yes.
Gotcha. Is it worth another look at and then just tabling it for you to come back and then you can kind of flush it out?
Mr. Chairman, too, if I may, I'm not indicating that it won't work. And, trying different prototypes of a product and creating a diversity of product is not necessarily problematic for us. Actually, we welcome that. The question that I just had, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I get that, Freddie, but none of the members have been jumping up to make a motion. And I'm just wondering if it's worth another look because there seems to be more questions than answers. Or commission members, what are your feelings?
I'd like to move to table. I'm just concerned about the precedents, and I'd like to see more about the project.
Second, I agree. I agree.
Okay, we have a motion second. Further discussion.
Ben, when you come back, you can. This is a suggestion too. If there's elevations that show contextually how they fit, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. So yeah, can the commission let me know what else you would like to see, just so that we're prepared next time?
Yeah, I would like to add a couple of things, Ben. I think if this is a prototype and if it's your strategy to create diversity throughout the city or throughout Ohio City, it would be nice to understand where else this might be and how it might be integrated into the fabric of Ohio City. So, tell the story so we understand this, because we're just trying to understand why we want to grant this lot split when there's, variances that need to happen and the only reason is because it's a prototype. So has it been built?
The other thing I think we need to find out is they have the rated wall in between the two of their houses, but what does it do to the contiguous property owners and their life safety issues? So I'd like to know that too.
Good point, David.
And so Ben, I think if you work with staff, we can get those things answered. And I think you're hearing from the commission that they're not objecting to this necessarily. They just need to know more about it. And obviously we don't want to put anyone in the jackpot here.
So certainly, I hear your concerns and considerations. We'll book our architect for 2 weeks from now and come back and present a full package to you then.
Super. Thanks so much, Ben. So I'll call the question. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Motion carries. It's tabled, and whatever time it takes you to do this, Ben, just let staff know, and we'll get you right back on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
We don't want you to miss building season coming up.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we get it. We get that you're in a hurry. Mandatory referrals, ordinance number 126-2021. Giving consent of the city of Cleveland to the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio for Towpath Phase 4 Trailhead. Who's here for this?
I'm James McKnight from Mayor's Office of Capital Projects. And I'm
Jim, nice to see you.
I'm representing Jamie DeRosa in the real estate group as well.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you all. Thanks for taking the opportunity to look at this morning. We've got a great opportunity to create a trailhead for the Towpath Trail at Canal Basin Park. We've been authorized by council to remove essentially 2/3 of the old, rather underutilized Canal Basin parking lot under the Detroit Superior and RTA bridges, and transform that space into what will become
Uh-oh.
I think we lost him for a second there.
Oh, there he is. Jim, you back on?
Looks like he's having network connectivity issues. Low bandwidth.
Should we move on and come back, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, let's do that. Jim, if you can hear us, we're going to come back to you when you kind of get into a better area.
I might also suggest to actually call in on the phone. That way you won't have any bandwidth.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next.
You won't be able to see what's going on, but at least you'll be able to talk to us.
That's right. Okay. So the next one is resolution number 132-2021, declaring the necessity and intention to appropriate properties for public purpose for the construction of a new City of Cleveland Police Headquarters along Opportunity Corridor west of East 75th Street. So is Jamie? Oh, no, it's Suzanne. Hey, Suzanne.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. So I am here to present this piece. This is for the appropriation of property. As you can see on the map, this is for the proposed police headquarters site. The city is seeking site control, and this is there's one remaining parcel that we don't have control of, which is shown in blue on the map, dark blue, outlined in blue. We have been attempting, the city and Burton Belcar has been attempting to negotiate with the owner since 2018 with very limited success. And so we have, made a good faith offer and so forth, and have heard nothing back. This has been going on for quite a while. So
where's the property owner located? Are they out of state?
No, from what I understand, he is in Cleveland. We were able to talk to him back in 2018 and have talked to a couple of his family members. You know, we're told he doesn't have a phone, but there have been like over 60 attempts to make contact with him by either the city or Burton Bell Carr. And it seems like the negotiations just aren't going anywhere at this point. And so that's why we feel that eminent domain is required.
Okay, gotcha. Suzanne, okay, go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay, so yes.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. As you can see on the screen, the appraised value is 2,500, which was the amount of our offer. You know, we haven't gotten a response. And so, you know, in order to complete site control, we are hoping to move forward with eminent domain. And the resolution to appropriate is required. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Commission members? So Suzanne, did you have an outside party give you the property value? Who did the work?
We did. It was appraised by Roger Sowers from Sowers, Bui and Associates. And we were actually a little bit surprised that it came in at 2,500. We kind of thought it might be less, but that's what it came back at. And we've made, like I said, several attempts to contact Mr. Levy to offer that amount and just have not received any response.
Okay.
Is this a vacant parcel? I can't.
It is. Yes, it's vacant land.
I move approval.
Is this a brownfield site?
I don't know the answer to that question. This is adjacent to the Orlando Baking Company headquarters.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, this is west of Orlando Baking Company, and this is all part of the site acquisition. I believe the environmentals have been done or is in process for this site, obviously, because we're making such a substantial investment in the site. So the site will be obviously cleaned and ready to be built on if it has not been cleaned off. But I believe that the Economic Development Department has been aggressively acquiring, which is why we're here today, parcels in this zone and making sure that they're remediated and ready to go to bring to market.
Yeah, I was just trying to get an idea of why the appraisal was at that number. So, perfect. Commission members?
I moved approval. Downing.
Second, Paul.
We have a motion second. Further discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing.
Yes.
I see that Commissioner Fluker is recusing himself. Curry,
Yeah.
Paul,
Yes.
Motion carries. Is Jim back on the line?
Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you.
I don't see him at all at this point.
Okay, he didn't call in then.
Not yet.
Okay,
Well, we don't know. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Jim, can you hear us? If he does, he should go over to Suzanne's office. All right.
I'll run over and see if I can find him.
Oh, thanks. Thanks,
You're welcome.
Suzanne. Administrative approvals. Take a look.
Move to approve.
Second. Downing.
Okay, we have a motion second. Further discussion. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yeah.
Paul,
Yes, yeah.
Motion carries. Let's go on to design review. The first one is OKO Homes, new construction seeking final approval. This is on West 57th Street and Side Court. Who's here for this?
Hi, this is Craig Soltis, representing Key State Homes. How are you all? Good morning.
Okay, you said Greg?
Yes.
Okay, Greg. Is there anyone else with you?
No, just me.
Okay, I'll need to swear you in. Do you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to kind of quickly get to the site plan because that's the main thing to review. Last time you all saw the building designs and the original layout and were favorable towards it. But the design review committee wanted us to reorient the townhouses on the back of the site. So this particular this slide just shows the location of it in Ohio City along West 57th Street near Lorraine Avenue. Next slide. And these are some of the existing conditions. So the site is shown in the center. The images that are around the site relate to the numbers and the arrows on the center image. And this, I just wanted you to see because we were very sensitive to the context and wanted the buildings to fit in with the existing homes on the street. Next slide. So this is the updated site plan. So the 3 units that are on West 57th Street, parcel 1, parcel 2, and parcel 3 are 2-story single-family homes with living space on the first floor with a big front porch on each of those. And then the units in the back were the ones that the design review wanted us to place before. Their concern was looking into the backyard of the house south of parcel 3 on West 57th Street. So after doing a
Is that me or is that him?
No, it must be him because I don't hear anything either.
Okay.
Mr. Soltis, if you can hear us, we're having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. So I'm going to turn off my video. Adam says maybe turn off your video. Okay. So the main concern was the units along West 58th place. So we rotated them so that, you know, if you're sitting in the living room on the second floor of the house out, this is parcel 1, parcel 2, and parcel 3. And then, you know, we realigned everything to only have the shared drive come back for parcel 1, 2, and 3 instead of cut through the entire site. And then realigned access to West 57th Street with that pedestrian connection, and then creating a little shared green space in the center of the development. Next slide. These are the materials that are intended for the units. So wood railings, gelled windows, Therma-Tru fiberglass doors, and you can see the Timberline HD shingles there. Next slide. And then we'll be using hardy board for the entire facades of all the units, and the clients will have their selection of these different colors. The trim will be hardy board as well. Next slide. Next slide. And then these are the floor plans of the units, and we could just go slide to slide, leave on, you know, a second or two on each slide and just keep going to the next slides because everyone has seen these already. So there's one and a half. Say, I'm sorry?
This hasn't changed then?
No, this hasn't changed.
Okay.
It's really just the layout of the site plan that's changed. So if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to field those.
Commission members?
I move approval, Lillian.
Second, Downing.
We have a motion and second. Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Laura's Home Edition. This is at 18120 Puritas. Who's here for this?
This is Ben Crabtree with Bioloski Cleveland, and I also have with me Michael Hahn from City Mission, Laura's Home Program Manager.
How you doing?
Good morning. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Michael, I'll just let you real quick kind of share with everyone the function of City's mission in the community and kind of what this addition is going to do for you guys.
Sure. So the city mission has been serving the homeless population in Cleveland for about 110 years now. Specifically for this project, we'll be addressing Laura's Home. Laura's Home is our women and children's shelter that annually serves about 700 women and children. This project is going to drastically expand our program services for our clients who come to us, mainly expanding areas for classes, therapy to take place for our children, expanding our childcare sites, really all for us to work towards that process of transformation and helping our women and children work towards independence. This will have a major impact on our facility and how we operate within the community. Annually, the mission is serving about 2,000 individuals each year who come to us experiencing homelessness.
Thanks, Michael. Next slide. So as Michael said, this is for Laura's Home, the Women's and Children's Facility that's located on Puritas Avenue between West 182nd and Rocky River Drive. Next slide. The property is on a sort of a deep L-shaped site that actually wraps back around the Family Dollar store that's located immediately east of the building. Next slide. Existing on the site, there's two buildings that are connected. There's a 4-story dormitory style living facility that is on the west side of the site, and then that was built in the late 60s, early 70s, that is flanked by a resource building that currently provides their classroom spaces and dining and chapel spaces for their program. Next slide. Sorry, next slide. Thank you. The existing buildings, the 4-story and the 1-story, are fairly simple brick box buildings with limited architectural character, but they are kind of what mainly fronts the site. Next slide is just another satellite view. Give context. And the location of this addition, the proposed addition, will be on the very north end of the site, attaching to the north end of that resource building. So if we go to the next slide, we just wanted to share that there's not a lot of visibility into that portion of the site. It's blocked by the existing buildings on the Laura's Home site, as well as the Family Dollar store adjacent to it. So it's fairly obscured. Next slide. That back portion of the site is primarily lawn and resource spaces that we will also be doing some landscape and playground modifications to. And next slide will show the extent of that. Sorry, next slide after this. Thank you. So the scope of the addition is the area shown in white. Primarily, we have about an 8,000 square foot addition going on the north end of that resource building, and a much smaller 1,000 square foot infill addition that's going in between the two existing buildings. There will also be some modification to the parking and drives in order to maintain the existing parking count on the site. We're not increasing that parking count. And We will be landscaping around the addition as well as providing some upgrades in the courtyard space that's located between the two existing buildings and as well as the addition. We will also be building a new playground on the sort of eastern portion of that L of the site, directly north of an existing picnic shelter and basketball court. There will be some new access points to the building in the addition. However, all main public entry will still be through the main entry to the resource building, which is located at the south end of the building off of Puritas Avenue. We go to the next slide. This is an image of what the building is anticipated to look like. So we are matching a lot of the existing materials and heights, but providing a little more architectural character to help define and provide some more height and space in these new learning spaces that will be provided in this facility. So single-story masonry with a clear-story pop-up that's going to provide some northern light into their largest resource space they use for after-school activities. That also provides screening for rooftop units over the building. Next slide. Programmatically, the bulk of the facility is, as Michael said, classroom and childcare space. The bulk of that main addition is providing space for their Pathways program, which is their after-school program for children up through high school age, as well as daycare facilities. These currently services are currently provided primarily in that residential building with kind of makeshift spaces. So this is going to provide them the opportunity to do real proper daycare for the women and families that are living in this facility. Next slide.
Are there going to be any vans or buses that queue up and drop kids off or pick kids up?
There are, sorry, yeah, Michael, go ahead.
So not within our site. So we do have some vans, but we do not transport children to and from our facility. So all of our kids will be living within the facility.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, nearly all of these services are for on-site folks that are part of that program. They live in the facility, and these is sort of wraparound care that is provided to kind of get them out and living independently.
Gotcha. All right.
This is just a blow up showing, where we have the daycare spaces. Pathways is kind of a large after-school space, and then the classroom space that provides learning space both for school age and adults that are kind of learning for job seeking. Next slide. This is just a diagram of how we approach the massing of the building. As we see this really as purely an extension of an expansion of that current facility. We started by just extruding out from that box, maintaining kind of the cornice lines, the simple brick materials and datum lines that we found on that building. But with some kind of larger expanded spaces in there, we thought it appropriate to at least do a little bit of architecture and kind of cap it with this sort of metal panel hat that sits on some of those taller spaces, more impactful spaces in that facility. And then lifting the edges of that to make it tall enough to provide real clear story light coming into that Pathways gymnasium space and screen and mechanical equipment that will be on the building. So we're getting a lot of mileage out of that pop-up. Next slide, I believe will show a section of how that is kind of creating some more dynamic space while also screening the rooftop equipment, but limiting how impactful it is from the street. Next slide. And then a view from the north. This is well into the site. This isn't something you're going to perceive from the street, but you can see that we are kind of carrying that language into the courtyard, so it's consistent. The architecture carries through. Entering that courtyard, you pass a new playground for the daycare space. It's a controlled space, and the courtyard will provide some much-needed outdoor space for folks residing at this facility. Next slide, please. From a material standpoint, we are matching the existing building materials with the masonry, with the brick, as well as a cast stone band that wraps as a datum line around all of the existing building. New glazing will be aluminum storefront with a metal panel infill at some areas in those kind of larger storefront openings with that pop-up clad in metal panel. One opportunity that we're looking at here is at the kind of the joint between the addition and the existing building. is the opportunity for a wall mural. This is both going to, that will go on an existing masonry wall immediately south of the addition. This both kind of provides some life and excitement on the site, but also provides a joint so that we're not having that, hard connection between the existing brick and the new brick that never ends up a perfect match. Next slide, please. Was this the next slide? I thought we had a materials palette slide in here. We did. Huh. Okay.
I can go forward if you want to see if it's still.
Can you go forward just one and see if I'm not sure what happened. That was in there when we presented on Wednesday.
That's all I have.
Okay, I apologize. The brick is to match the existing kind of orange Norman quartz brick with a 1/3 bond. We have a cast stone band, a sort of a buff metal panel on the overrun, and a dark metal panel to match the storefront framing within the storefront openings. From a landscape standpoint, the primary focus of the landscape is around the existing building to kind of soften those edges and prevent there being just little mow strips. So a mix of some evergreen hedges and flowering shrubs and native grasses, a few small trees. One comment we did receive from Far West Design Review is that they would like to see more shade trees, both perhaps one in the courtyard and a few along the edge of the parking lot where it's crossing over towards the playground area, and possibly even adding one that's a little further out of our scope area at the street edge. They did give us some leeway on that, in my understanding that if there are security concerns with the very sensitive population we have here, that would of course take precedence over the kind of beautification and shade that those trees would provide, but that's something that we are reviewing with the owner. Next slide. And just to touch on the mural, this is something that, this is not proposing a specific solution for this. This is proposing that as an opportunity that the library would work with a local artist to create a wall mural on that existing wall. The next slide, I think, just shows some conceptual examples of some directions that could possibly go in. That is, of course, something that we would need to review more closely once they work with an artist on a specific installation for that facade. Next slide, maybe it.
I think there's one more. Oh, nope, that was it.
No. With that, I'm happy to take any questions that the committee might have.
Commission members?
We have Mr. Fluker.
Yeah.
Go ahead, August.
Thank you for that presentation. I see there's a comment about incorporating the crosswalk. If you can go back to the site plan for accessibility purposes and accessing the playground area. I think considering how important it is for kids to get out, play, I think there should be more of an effort to create maybe a tabletop or a material change to allow people to cross, and maybe a little more effort on what the playscape looks like. It feels pretty static. I think there's an opportunity to create a wonderful place for kids who, quite frankly, would enjoy this tremendously because they are homeless. But I think there's an opportunity to do some really creative site planning here and create an environment that calms traffic, that allows people to get to and fro across the way, and create an environment that kids would really appreciate as a respite from what they experienced in their lives. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Great comment, August. August, is that something you think staff could review?
I just think I think a little bit more attention to the site would be a tremendous compliment to the architecture and what you guys been able to do to knit the facility together.
Understood. And we are absolutely planning on incorporating a crosswalk, and we can certainly look at making that more of a material change to intentionally slow traffic as it runs through there, and take a harder look at what that playground is like out there. They do use the lawn as kind of a lawn, and it's active over there, but we can take a harder look at that space.
Other commission members?
So I move approval with the incorporation of August's comments.
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
Lewis Property Fence Landscaping and Parking Lot. This is at 789 East 185th Street. Who's here for this?
Good morning again, everyone. This is Sharonda Watley with Cleveland City Planning. We lost our presenter. She hadn't, so I can give additional details on the project. You all had reviewed and approved uses just earlier today in as we just say, are proposing to create or formalize the parking for their existing building. They are proposing a number of spaces. We have worked with them to make sure that they are as in line with the PRO code as possible. We did also have them present this layout along with the landscaping and bike rack material and fencing material to the design review committee just earlier this week. The design review committee was very supportive of the snow uses that they needed, and they were also supportive of the fencing material as well as some of the landscaping. They did have some minor comments in terms of the arrangement and spacing of the landscaping materials, and then also the locations of the wheel stops. They asked the property owner to consider moving those just slightly so that there is more space for the sidewalk so that it is indeed usable. And I don't know if Jerome Lewis himself is on the phone call, but he is the property owner, and they currently do not have any tenants or any of the spaces leased out for their retail spaces, but they are in the process of renovating those spaces and want to bring them back onto future use.
Great, thank you. Jerome, are you on the phone? Maurice, are you speaking?
What was the last? Drew?
Jerome.
Jerome.
I don't see him.
Okay.
Could be one of the call-in users. We have 3 call-in users. If you are a call-in user, just to let you know that *6 will unmute you in case you might be muted, just so that you know.
Thanks, Maurice. Commission member.
Move approval, Downing.
Second, Paul.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Michael, call the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Minuteman Headquarters Edition, seeking final approval. This is at 3740 Carnegie. Who's here for this?
Got a couple of folks. Can you hear me? This is Mike Fant at AODK.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent.
Okay.
There's
If you guys can, anyone speaking to this can raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do. So it's
Okay.
myself, Greg Ernst with AODK, and we also have Dan Guest from Independence Construction, who is our contractor.
Great. Go ahead.
Okay, excellent. So if someone could turn the page, I'm going to go to the existing site. Go one more here. Right there. That's good. Okay, great. So this is for Minutemen, who has an existing 3-story building that is on Carnegie Avenue. The address is 3740 Carnegie, and they've been at this building for quite a while. This is their main headquarters, and the project, I'll go over obviously a little bit more about what we're doing here, but just so you get a sense of the context and what the high level project is we're adding an addition to this building. Minutemen is a growing company, so they're looking to expand the business at the current headquarters, but they're also consolidating one of the buildings, which is at 2900 Carnegie, just down the street to the west here. They've never had all of their employees all in one space, so they want to consolidate and kind of create a campus here on this site where they can consolidate everybody and continue to expand and grow. And so this is a really exciting project for them. This is a once in a generation opportunity for them to kind of relook at the kind of a master plan of the property that they own here, and put a new addition on this building and get all of their employees all together here. So what you're looking at on this site plan, the area that's highlighted, is the property that they own. The building's in the middle. Again, it's 3 stories tall. The first floor plan is the largest footprint, and the upper 2 stories are more of the square structure there. The building is just under 40,000 square feet, and they are using all the parking you're looking at here, and they own the part that's also to the west, which is a green strip there, and that far southeast corner is also a green area that we're going to look to expand into with new parking here in just a minute. And also the church, there's an abandoned church on the southwest corner. The building itself is, the facade is a terracotta material, which is kind of unique in this area. It's not a historic building, but it definitely is a unique material that you don't see on a lot of buildings here in Cleveland, and it's in pretty good shape. So we're actually, in this new addition, we're looking to separate the building completely from the existing building so that this can still stand on its own, and they are obviously going to renovate that and reuse the existing interior, but we're not doing a whole lot to the exterior outside of moving the sign. So before we get to the actually, maybe this would be a good plan. Let's advance one slide. There is some existing shots of the site, so you can see the Minutemen building right now, and that terracotta is kind of an off-white, and it wraps the front facade, and then it wraps one bay back on the east and west side. So you're looking at the north facade along Carnegie. The rest of the building is brick. Facades on the other sides, and there's some ephes as well. And then some of the other shots here, there's a shot of the abandoned church that's on the southwest property, and you're kind of looking up and down some of the street views here. And let's go one more slide. Excellent. All right, so this is the new site plan, and if it's possible to zoom in a little bit on the building area. The purple building is existing, so Carnegie is to the north on the plan that you're looking at on the top there, and Cedar is on the south. So the purple is the existing footprint. The orange part is the new addition. And again, we're trying to keep the new addition. It's going to be the same height as the new building. It's about 45,000 square feet total, 15,000 square foot floor plates. So it's going to match the existing height of the building next door, and approximate footprint as well. That's just kind of the way it worked out. We are putting a connector piece. You'll see that kind of right in the middle. That will be a 3-story connector, so that as the employees can get back and forth, because they are going to have different divisions and different sides, but they all are going to use both buildings. So that way they'll have like a glass. It's really mostly glass. And you'll see this with the renderings, that our hope was to really kind of allow that piece to kind of recess back in there and keep the 2 buildings looking like separate buildings. There's about 30 feet between the new and existing building, and then there's another 27 to 28 feet between our new building and the west property line. And we're gonna, that's essentially just gonna be a grass area. The other opportunity this afforded us was to put some courtyards in between the 2 buildings, which they don't have right now, and this is a great amenity for them. So we're going to have some landscaped courtyards that they can put some furniture in. It'll be protected on the north side with just a nice decorative fence right behind that front courtyard so that they can use these courtyards and have some privacy in there. The other thing you'll see with this site plan, the entire site plan is really being redone. Right now, the parking is just, all the parking trees have been, or when I say trees, I mean the striping has been added to over the years, and none of it has really been master planned correctly. So in this new plan, we're kind of stretching out the ingress and the egress. We're putting a new drive lane kind of north-south here connecting Carnegie and Cedar. So there's a convenience for the employees when they're coming and going during rush hour to be able to choose which entrance and exit they want to go to. And with adding all this additional parking off to the east, that also kind of separates the parking in half there and makes it a little safer for the folks as they're entering the building. So the parking spaces, we are bringing over almost a third of the employees in this entire facility are coming over from 2900 Carnegie. So they needed quite a bit of parking to accommodate not just their current employees, but the ones they're bringing over. Plus they have a labor hall. So this parking area kind of in the middle, just south of the purple existing building, is labor hall parking. So these are not employees. These are folks that come here every day, that come for work or for collecting checks or whatnot. So that's the labor hall parking lot. It's completely secured with fencing. The rest of this is all employee parking on the east and west. And then across on Carnegie is all guest parking. So with the new addition, you'll see when we look at the renderings, we have actually put a new entrance tower on the new building, which is kind of a modern version of the existing building. And that is now going to be where the sign is located, and most of the guests and customers will come and park right there just like they do today, but they'll have a new entrance piece to go into. As far as employees, they're going to enter from two areas. There's a south entrance off the new building, and there's about 70 car spaces, I believe, in that lot on the south side, and that will be for some of the employees. The majority of the employees are going to enter from the east. We're putting a new entrance piece on the east side of the existing building, since that's where the majority of the parking is. And there will be a really nice entrance there. And it literally bifurcates the building in half, creates a nice corridor through the building, through the walkway to get to the existing building. The other thing with the landscaping, there's not a lot of landscaping in the current lots. This is a huge upgrade from where they are right now, not just with the landscaping, but also the fencing. There is a nice decorative fence right now along Carnegie, which we're going to extend. And in the rest of the lots, the fences are, there's probably 4 or 5 different types of fencing. Some of it is barbed wire, some of it's chain link. And what we're doing is removing all of that and redoing all the fencing with a more decorative fence that's consistent throughout. And we're also adding all these landscape islands throughout the center here. These are actually raised beds that will have some ornamental trees and some shrubs and some mulch in the beds there. And there is some sodded areas around the building, and we are landscaping in and around the courtyards as well. Okay, can we, let's advance one here. This plan, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. It's really the same floor plan. It just has some more information about the planting materials. Let's go one more. And this is just the photometric site. We can pass this. Let's jump about 3 or 4 slides. I want to get to the first rendering, please. There we go. Okay, excellent. So there's about, I think there's 5 or 6 renderings here, and we'll just kind of rifle through these. The first one here is looking from Carnegie Avenue, and you're looking directly at the new building. You'll see that we are taking the signboard off the existing building and locating it up on top of the new entrance piece. The other thing we've done with this building is set back the 3rd level, is recessed back. We're putting a new cafe / kind of restaurant piece up there, not a public place, but for all the folks in the building to use. And it'll have a roof terrace that overlooks Carnegie, has great views of Cleveland from up there. but it also helps kind of break down the building a little bit. The materials on the building are mostly metal with metal panel and glass. The piece around the front is going to be an engineered stone. I know it looks a little gray in the rendering here, but the stone will match closely to the off-white color of the terracotta of the existing building. So in scale and in color, we are going to have a few things that kind of tie together, while this new piece is really a modern version. And we're also proposing here like a ticker tape media banner. It's like a media screen right on that front piece as well, the two-story piece. And this is very similar to, we were kind of inspired by the Idea Center, Idea Stream downtown on Playhouse Square, where that media screen is kind of integrated into the architecture as opposed to it being kind of plastered onto the building, which you see a lot when they do things after the fact. So it's kind of intercepted by the verticals there. And Minutemen is going to use this for kind of Cleveland Pride. You know, they'll probably have some announcements for their company, but they also love to express things that are kind of happening around the city on a monthly basis. And they've never really had the opportunity to do anything like this before. So they're really pumped about having that opportunity. There's kind of a red sign off to the lower right there. That's not being proposed. That's just an existing piece on here. I've had people asking me about that, but it's just there. That's on the adjacent property there. The other thing you can see in this rendering is the three-story walkway that's kind of set between the two buildings. You'll see this in a couple other renderings, but again, the intention with that was to kind of recess it back so that it's not really, it's in view, but it helps keep the buildings feel like they're separated. And we are going to landscape this front little courtyard piece, and there will be a decorative fence to protect the courtyard beyond it, but at least it provides a nice little waiting area as you enter the building. Okay, we can go one more. And this gives you a view from the street, so you can look back and see the scale of the building next to the existing. Okay, one more, please. Okay, that's really almost the same rendering as the first one, just a little bit higher up. Let's go one more here. And now you're down at kind of sidewalk level looking at that entry courtyard. The other thing that's noticeable here is we have some louvers along the front of the building, which is serving kind of two purposes. Part of it is kind of a sun veil, but it's also to protect the glass at the base level of the building. And let's go one more. There we go. And so this is a shot of one of the interior courtyards, and we've put a lot of glass around the courtyards here. You're looking kind of at the new building, and that's going to be the main walkway that you go from the main entrance all the way back to the employee entrance on the rear of the building. That whole stretch is really kind of a public corridor. So we've opened up a lot of glass there so the courtyard feels like it's almost part of the building. Okay, one more, please. So here I can talk about a few more of the materials. The building is essentially, we have engineered stone on the front. All of the other three facades are going to be brick with metal panels at the third story. The brick on the existing building is going to be stained. So right now it's kind of a mishmash of different colors, and we want that brick to be stained to kind of blend in with the terracotta on the front, so that the building feels more unified. So we're going to do the same thing on the new building. We're going to use brick all the way up the first two stories, and that will also be stained to kind of match. So both buildings look like they match. And then the third story is supposed to look kind of like a slightly recessed story band up there. We're going to use metal panels with a slightly darker tint than the clear anodized that you're seeing on the main window structures. And I think this is the last, and this is coming around the front. So from the Carnegie side, as you turn the corner, this is the facade that faces west on that kind of green strip there. That engineered stone will turn the corner here. Here you can see a nice view of the roof terrace that's coming off of the new cafe. And the metal panels on the third story here, the brick on the main two stories. And that little alley there will be basically sod. We are going to have a little bit of landscaping in the middle there because there is a view corridor in the middle of the building that we're really trying to play up. So we're going to create like a nice little landscaped piece right outside those windows there that you're seeing. And we are trying to maintain, the other thing you can see on this image is the sidewalk in the front of the building. We're trying to maintain at minimum dimensions a sidewalk and a drive aisle, and then the guest parking here. I believe that is it. Oh, sorry, final slide. Sorry about that. One more slide. And this is just showing some of the plant materials, the decorative fencing and the materials. Also, all the site lighting is going to be new. Right now, again, it's just like the landscaping and the fencing, it's kind of a hodgepodge. So we're using this opportunity to put all new light poles, LED, 100% cut off. So you can see that fixture there amongst some of the plantings. All right, sorry about that. Now I'm finished.
This is Lillian. I think it's really love the design. And I do have a question though, if you could go to the site plan. I think it's a really extraordinary addition and love the roof terrace, love the architecture. I just think it's fabulous. So what I'm about to say is not a requirement, it's a question. Because I just looked on Google Earth and I'm curious if you explored the idea of the new addition actually being flush or closer to the street. So it's such a nice piece of architecture. It's sort of like if you had pulled it forward, still kept the bridge, and it started to create kind of much more pedestrian orientation to Carnegie, which is a long-term strategy of, Midtown and others. That it would also, the incredible architecture of this building would have much more kind of a presence on the street for Minutemen as well, in terms of it, potentially sitting up towards the setback of, I can see a little bit of the buildings that are there on this plan adjacent to it. If it had moved up, I know you would lose the parking and the drive aisle just there, but just curious if you explored that, because to me, it would actually make this more prominent and start to set the bar a lot higher for things to come on Carnegie that could really start to change the nature of that street, because it's such an exceptional building.
So we have explored that. We've explored really a lot of different options on this, and really the thing that set the tone for where we're at now is that we just want this building. We want it to be prominent, but we don't want it to overtake the existing building. We want the two to kind of work like a campus, and that was the intent of Minutemen as well. So in this way, we're kind of respecting the existing building, which actually has some really nice features. We're keeping this directly in line with it. Now the two buildings almost look like they work together, as opposed to one being more prominent than the other. And it also allows us to maintain that very efficient kind of drive aisle that's already there on the existing building. So it does serve a lot of purposes for us.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate that. I kind of knew what the answer was going to be, but okay. I will say though, you can pass by here and not necessarily notice this. So on the one hand, I agree with you, but on the other hand, I think it's such a nice addition that because you're actually putting this auto aisle in front of it, you're also going to lose the impact of having done this exceptional building, because it's not, you still can pass by it. So, and as I've driven by, there are a lot of people who don't just come by car, but come by transit. And we're often sometimes waiting outside and on foot. So, so this kind of pedestrian orientation to me is also a different kind of signal for you guys, but I understand it and it's probably too late. I just wanted to raise it.
Thanks, Lillian. Commission members, anyone else?
I move approval. Downing.
A second, Stami.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Further discussion?
All my comments aside, thank you, and thank you for such an exceptional addition.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Michael, call the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your comments.
Downtown Flats Design Review, NFL Draft Promotional Signage. Who's going to speak to this?
I'll kick us off. I'm Hannah Belcedo.
Okay, anyone speaking, if you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Planning Commission members. I'm Hannah Belcedo with Destination Cleveland, and it's my pleasure to join you here this morning to share this exciting project. In 6 weeks, Cleveland will be center stage for only the third live spectator-attended major sporting event in the U.S. since the pandemic began. And we're excited to bring these spectators to our hospitality businesses that have suffered so much during this pandemic. From April 29th through May 1st, we will safely and responsibly host the 2021 NFL Draft right here in Cleveland. And to kick us off, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Mohal from the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission to share just a little bit more about what that means. Mike?
Thanks, Hannah. Next slide, please. So, and you can go next slide as well. So again, thank you everyone for having us today. Super excited to share some really cool concepts and creative in preparation for the NFL Draft. This is our signage and activation plan, and you should note that all of this is obviously pending approval and budget. So we have a lot packed in here. We may or may not end up doing everything within the deck, but we wanted to share with you the overall concept. So next slide, please. So I'll start by welcoming Daphne Wood from the NFL, who's leading the creative side of this from them, to kind of share a little bit about the inspiration for the creative that you're going to see moving forward. Daphne?
Sure, thank you, Mike. With our partners from Cleveland, I think the things we learned most about Cleveland is that it is a very passionate place, it is very bold, and it is authentic. So those were things that we wanted to bring to this creative. For us, 2021 is the crescendo of hope and anticipation, and that's all going to come together on this stage in Cleveland for the NFL Draft. So we brought together this notion of turning up the volume and really taking some of the inspiration from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the inductees there, and all the cultural revolutionaries that are part of that induction process. And while this draft will not be the same as some drafts we've had in the past, it's still going to be very big, and it's still going to be very well thought of, and it'll still be a very special moment for those athletes that are getting this moment center stage. So we look forward to partnering with everybody, and we hope that you like what we're going to present.
Thanks, Daphne. And I would just add, so the NFL will be releasing the details of the overall draft site very, very soon. But know that it is focused on the North Coast Harbor area. So it will include First Energy Stadium, areas to the north of First Energy Stadium, and then east over to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's the central draft area. Next slide, please. So first thing we'll share is our the design and look and feel of street pole banners. So we partner with our friends at Downtown Cleveland Alliance, and we have almost 500 street pole banners all over the city that will be promoting the draft. Next slide. Next slide, please. There you go. I did want to point out that one thing to note is, unlike the Super Bowl and some of the other tentpole events for the NFL, the draft is a celebration for all 32 teams, not just 2. And so what you'll see, particularly around First Energy Stadium and within the NFL draft experience, are individual street pole banners featuring all 32 NFL teams. Next slide.
Can we get rid of the Ravens and the Steelers?
You know, we've talked about that quite a bit, so we appreciate that. I don't think the NFL would allow us to.
Well, we could get an approval with the exception of those 2.
I'm in. You don't have to sell me. All All right, so a lot of what you're going to see here is really, things that we have proposed before around major events. So, you've certainly seen this around the, things like the RNC, Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and so forth. One of the things that we did for the first time for the MLB All-Star Game was to wrap the downtown trolleys. Obviously, they're all over downtown, so tons of visuals, creative, fun way to bring the draft to life for people. So we're working with our friends at RTA to do that again as well. Next slide. Again, first time we did anything on the Jack Casino Bridge was for MLB All-Star Game. It got rave reviews. So that bridge over Prospect in Ontario, we'd like to wrap that again. And there you see what the creative would look like for that. Again, the Take the Stage mantra, incorporating the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as well as the draft stage for where the prospects realize their dreams. Next slide. Of course, you have to have the iconic O in the Long Live Rock in front of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Again, a lot of thought is given with these things to provide great photo opportunities, so that people, our visitors and locals are sharing on social media and allow us to really amplify that the draft is in Cleveland. Next slide. Another one we did for the first time for MLB that we'd like to do again is within the Euclid Arcade. Obviously, an iconic space for locals and visitors, and we love the idea of a giant banner within that structure. Again, awesome photo op. Next slide. All right, turn it back over to Daphne.
Perfect. Next slide. So as you can see, we'd like to take the iconic Cleveland signs and turn those into a draft photo op for visitors. So there are 6 iconic locations throughout the city that we've outlined that we'd like to use as photo opportunities and people to really amplify Cleveland on the national stage. Next slide. 4th Street, which is a known destination for restaurants and entertainment, is a place where we'd look to potentially put pennant banners. Next slide. The William G. Mather, we're looking at potentially having some look and feel on this, TBD on exactly what that will look like, but we put some examples up here to look into putting some decor on the ship. Next slide. So we have our Pepsi helmets, all 32 teams represented for a photo opportunity here. We're looking at Mall C. We're still doing some engineering design to see if the weight load here is okay. But we'd like to use that location since it does overlook the draft site. But these are a really popular destination for people to take photos either with their team or they go around and take it with all 32 teams. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Daphne. One note to mention on the helmets that Daphne just showed. So the idea would be for the next month, they would be on Mall C, and then when the draft experience opens in North Coast Harbor, they'd actually move down into the overall NFL draft experience. Okay, so one of the things that we've had great success with around a lot of our larger events is to really promote and activate at the airport. We look at that as our welcome mat to the city. We know there will be high traffic through there when the week of the draft, and so we want to make sure that their first impression for our visitors is a really, really good one. So we'll have a lot of signage, which we'll share with you, as well as we'll be doing data capture and things like that, but also live entertainment. So down in baggage claim, as people are waiting for their materials and so forth, we want to make sure that we're giving them a warm welcome. We've got volunteers there to help direct them, and that it's just a fun atmosphere overall. Next slide, please. Again, you can see some of the activations that we're planning. Again, this is something that we always do around major events when we know we've got a captive audience here at the airport of visitors. So excited to do that once again, something we've really pride ourselves on. Next slide. Can't forget about our friends at Burke Lakefront. We'll certainly be activating and having creative assets there as well. Events like this, as you may know, will draw a lot of dignitaries that'll be flying into Burke. And so we want to make sure that we don't overlook that and make sure that they get a warm welcome as well. Next slide. And then really focusing on a lot of the pedestrian areas and areas that we know will, a lot of our visitors will see, right? So we've done this in the past in the train station at Tower City, above the, basically the entrance and exit of Tower City train station. Next slide. I'm going to let Hannah speak to the Clean Committed program that we'll be promoting.
Sure. So Destination Cleveland did a lot of research at the start of the pandemic and found that consumers were seeking assurances that businesses were committed to their cleanliness and safety and their commitment to that. So we partnered with our healthcare experts at the Cleveland Clinic, Metro Health, UH, and the city and county health departments, and created a set of standards that we wanted businesses to follow to demonstrate to consumers, both locals and visitors, that they were committed to employing safe practices. And then we invited the hospitality community and really anyone to join in by committing to this set of safe standards. And we're proud to share that more than 1,000 businesses have done so since the start of the pandemic and received what we called clean kits. That was some masks, hand sanitizer that they could distribute to consumers to remind them to follow these safe practices, but then also posters and window clings that they could display in their storefronts to show consumers that they were committed to employing safe practices. And then Destination Cleveland is promoting these businesses through our earned, owned, and paid media campaigns. And we're going to continue to push this so that we can get even more businesses clean committed before the NFL draft comes to town.
Thanks, Hannah. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of the advertising that that we're looking to engage in. Obviously, we're gonna secure a number of billboards in and around town. You'll see some of the creative here in future slides. Next slide, please. We have also secured a number of sidewalk kiosks in and around downtown to promote the draft and get our locals excited about it coming up at the end of April. Next slide, please. Again, RTA bus shelter, sort of the same idea as let's make sure that that our locals are excited about hosting this major event. Next slide. Again, here's some of the creative on the billboards that you'll see around town promoting the event. Next slide, please. And then this is an example of some of the digital billboards around downtown that we'll be featuring. This is the over by the Prospect and East 9th Street. Very familiar with that high impact digital board there. So we look to lease that again and again get people excited about what's coming. Next slide. The one thing I'll also mention, if I could, before Alex gets started, is just that in addition to all of the visitors that'll be here for the draft is seen by 55 million people worldwide. It's seen in 115 countries. So it's an incredible platform for us. And so while all of the creative that we're sharing with you today is going to be awesome for people, you know, for the boots on the ground and the cars driving around, we also want to make sure that we're featuring things that, you know, will look great on TV as well and really showcase Cleveland. I'll turn it over to Alex.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks, Mike. So these projections are something that we're doing outside of the NFL's draft footprint, really as a way to feature Cleveland sports history, as a way to feature, you know, facts and raise perceptions of Cleveland while our visitors are in town. So what we've done is secured 3 high-impact buildings that are on the pedestrian path up and down from the lakefront where the draft will be to run these large-scale projections on. And this is essentially a slide projector that, you know, can throw an image about 25 or 30 feet wide. So I'm on the phone, so I'll have to walk you through the images a little bit. I have them in front of me, but you should be on the slide with the advancing trivia facts. So it'll cycle through, you know, a question, the possible answers, the correct answer, and a call to action. So if you advance one to where we'll be looking at the Hampton Inn, you can see how this will work. The Hampton Inn, north facade. Again, a great view when you're coming up 9th Street from the lakefront. You'll be able to see this. We're going to actually stack 2 of these projections. So we'll have about a 20 by 40 foot projection in the center of that building where there are no windows. This will run Thursday through Saturday evenings, about 8 to midnight. And if you advance one slide to show the plan view, this shows how we accomplish this. These projectors are located on a pickup truck. The whole assembly is mobile. It comes with a small generator. And so we'll be seeking permission from the city to park that truck on that plaza just north of the Hampton Inn there. And the ideal throw distance for that image is about 65 feet from the surface where you want to be. So that's how we'll accomplish this for the Hampton. Next slide, please. Looking at the Westin, this east facade of the Westin on St. Clair Avenue is a little bit smaller. So we'll be using one projector. Again, that image is about 25, 30 feet across, and the truck will sit in a private plaza that is just east of there. We're working with that property owner as well. Final projection site for this program is the 55 Public Square Garage. We're actually going to do the opposite of what we're doing on the Hampton with this and stack the images horizontally. So they'll be about 40, 50 feet wide, 25 feet high. Again, running this rotating trivia type of content. The truck there will be parked in the private lot right there at St. Clair and 3rd. Again, working with that property owner. We're working with the NFL possibly to do a projection on the Great Lakes Science Center dome. Still working out the details of this one, but wanted to present it to you as a possibility. For Terminal Tower, I'll throw it briefly back to Daphne because the NFL is really leading on this one.
Perfect, thank you. So for Terminal Tower, we're looking to do a countdown on Terminal Tower so that we can showcase draft from many points in the city and people can enjoy it while not being fully in, you know, any sort of footprint. We also are hoping here to be able to have the teams that are on the clock. So as that's live, we hope to have this turning over, and as the Browns are on the clock, this will be a Browns look and feel. And as each team kind of funnels through, you'll be able to look up from the city and see what team is on the clock and be a part of that amplification. This probably would also be something that would go into some of our broadcast shots and things like this as one of the iconic pieces of the city. Next slide.
Great, thanks, Daphne. So if we go to the next slide, mobile light and video, one other location that we're really looking to activate is West 3rd Street under the Main Avenue Bridge. If you ever walk down through this space, you know, to a Browns game, there's often activity under the bridge there. We'd look to formalize that a little bit, maybe bring in an LED truck, again, to run some of that video content that we're developing or the rotating trivia questions. Something that's a little more Cleveland-centered. And then next slide, we'll throw it to Heather to talk about Voices of CLE.
Thank you. As members of the commission are familiar with Voices of CLE as a new public art initiative started last summer, providing artists, local artists of color in our city, the opportunity to have their works highlighted more throughout our city. And so we're very excited that the Sports Commission, Destination Cleveland, and the NFL have afforded us the opportunity to be involved in some beautification efforts, especially in some vacant storefronts, pedestrian level storefronts. So this first one is at 310 West Lakeside. Each of these properties will feature one artist, so it'll be sort of like a mini gallery, if you will, featuring one artist's works of art. This one will feature artist Sina Aaliyah. And the next one next slide, is at 1350 West 3rd Street. So that's West 3rd and St. Clair. This property owner is very excited to be involved and will feature artworks from artist Rashawn Dillard. And the next one is at 55 Public Square. This is the old restaurant, sun patio, if you will. And so this will feature art from artist Isaiah Williams. This is one contiguous piece that will work very well on that window. And I think one more. Yes, the Lincoln Building. I believe that's 770 St. Clair. It's right across the street from Weston. We know a lot of visitors will be staying. The building owners recently, as you can tell, have upgraded their facade there. And this owner is also very excited to participate and have some of his windows activated with art from artist Lauren Pierce as they continue to outreach and look for potential retail tenants. So they are excited to participate as well. And the next slide.
So I'll jump in here, Heather.
Thank you.
These last two storefront buildings, the standard building that should be in front of you now, we just received verbal confirmation from that owner that they're interested in doing some dressing up of that storefront. What we would do here is put some of our content in these windows, again, turn it into printable window vinyl. These would be like large format photos of, Cleveland sites outside of downtown and perhaps some of our own creative from Destination Cleveland. Another location on the next slide that we're looking at for this is 1717 East 9th Street, where the furniture store recently vacated. Again, these are sort of high profile locations where we anticipate a lot of foot traffic to and from the draft site. So with that, I think it brings us to the end, and I will throw it back to Mike before we ask for any questions, just to make sure there's nothing that we have missed.
No, I think we got it all. Just happy to answer any questions that you all might have. I do want to note Daphne from the NFL did have to jump, so she's no longer on the call.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Commission members, questions? Mike, I can understand why you want to keep the Ravens and the Steelers as part of the football groups coming in, but I think we should really rethink their colors. The Steelers obviously have garish colors, being that yellow and black, and I think pink may be more appropriate. So maybe we can give them a new color palette to work from.
Yeah, I was thinking the space on Mall C only had room for 30 helmets. So maybe we can find another space out in the farm field in Richland County or something for the other two.
I'm gonna move approval before this really gets wild. It's great. It's going to be great for the city. It's good to see all of my former colleagues from Destination Cleveland and Downtown Cleveland Alliance. Good luck.
Thank you.
I second, this is Lillian, but I do have a question probably for Hannah. I remember around the RNC, kind of collective effort to recycle these materials afterwards and reuse them. Is there still a similar effort? Because these are really not going to be up for very long. So.
That is a really good point, Lillian. How could I have forgotten that effort? But I did. Mike and I will talk about that. We have not had conversation about it, but I'm glad you brought it up, and we will certainly explore it.
Well, yeah, I still have my banner and the purses that AT&T made for us. So there is an opportunity there.
Yes, there is.
I would recommend it and start to think about it as some kind of program or policy, since we do so much of it. It's just so much material over time, over many events that the city does. So it's not a requirement, but I would really, consider kind of trying to figure out how to continue that effort.
Lillian, I would just share with you that we're working really closely with NFL has a green team. And they are going to, they're already working with Habitat for Humanity and Salvation Army, as well as the Cleveland Food Bank to repurpose materials and food associated with the event. So we can engage them, and I'm sure they would have lots of ways to help with that project. So great call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the comment, Lillian. Do you want to second the motion?
I already did. I did, and then I
Oh,
commented.
did you? Okay, good. We have a motion, second, further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'm looking forward to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Is Jim McKnight on the line? Did he get on?
Yes, I'm back.
He's-
And I'm
okay.
gonna keep my video off this time. I'm working on city slow Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Appreciate it and apologize for cutting out earlier. Essentially, though, we're working down in the area of Canal Basin Park. We've got some funds that are coming from CMAQ dollars left over from the Stage 4 Towpath Trail. So council has authorized us that we can remove up to 2/3 of the parking that's currently on that site. We'll maintain about 75 spaces. But we took a look back at the old framework plan. Some of you may remember that from 2013. Kept what we felt were the guiding principles of that plan, but really started to look at land that we had site control over. So essentially city-owned land and public right-of-ways in that Canal Basin area. So if you could go to the next slide. This is the terminus and/or start of the Towpath Trail in the flats. So this is the sort of guiding overall plan that we've been working from now in order to develop an idea for exactly how we'll stage the Towpath trailhead as phase 1. And that's essentially the funding that we currently have available from ODOT. And I believe this ordinance is asking us, asking for permission to utilize that funding and develop this first phase. So in looking at the overall site, we recognize that the bridges are the guiding element from a visual and spatial component in the area. So our 3 goals were essentially to green up the site and the spaces between the bridges, to activate spaces below the bridges and provide future improvements in those areas, and then also to provide public access to the water's edge. So this is the overall framework or plan that we're working from currently. And then the phase 1 dollars on the next slide will show you what we can do with the funds that we have available. So the previous slide, we were closing West and Merwin streets, and in the current phase 1, we'll have to maintain those right-of-ways and take out, as I mentioned, about 2/3 or 150 parking spaces, make a green space between the RTA bridge and the Detroit Superior Bridge, and provide pathways, landing space for the towpath to end, and have amenities for bike riders and users of the towpath. That'll include seating, kiosk for information, drinking fountain. There'll be lighting, all as provisions, and then also providing access via walking paths over to the future Metro Parks pavilion. So we work closely with Metro Parks. Metro Parks is actually developing the ODOT plans for us. And this would go out to bid later this spring and then be implemented over the summer. The Towpath Stage 4 is anticipated to open in July. And I believe the following, actually, that's more of the detailed planting that we'll do, substantial planting, have biofiltration cells adjacent to the path, and activate the space below the RTA bridge with step seating. And believe that's it.
Thanks, Jim. Commission members?
I move approval. Downing.
Second. Just curious what we're actually approving today. What was the actual approval for? It was not for the design, right? It was for the.
Just for the opportunity to use funding to build a trailhead.
Okay. And then, so my question is, there was a second, I didn't second, is when will this actual design come to us? Because I hadn't seen it before, which is okay. I just wondered, will the design of the park be coming to us as well?
I think as more funding becomes available, we have very limited funds right now, about $750,000 to just remove parking spaces and do the initial greening of the parking lot. But we'll continue to flush out the design and eventually bring it back.
Okay. So when there's an overall, you're just basically preparing the site, getting rid of the parking, greening. But when the real vision for Canal Basin Park is, it will come to us, is what I want. It won't like piecemeal us where I'm going. And we'll see an overall vision for the design of Canal Basin, right?
Yes.
That's certainly our goal.
Well, it's not a goal. We're going to do that. So one thing that I do want to emphasize is that what you're seeing today is the permission to spend the resources like James indicated, but wanted to show you sort of the precursor of what the thinking is for that overall vision. So we thought it would be important to do that. And as I'm thinking what should happen is that overall vision should be shared. Now, again, a lot of that is going to be contingent on how the resources flow and how we're able to implement the phasing associated with this. And that's really where I think the concern lies. You know, we have a vision and then you end up having to budget and value engineer things. And that's really where the devil is in the details. And often there's frustration. But to your point, Lillian, I think definitely, coming and showing what that overall vision is important.
Yeah, I agree. Just because, this is the terminus of the Towpath Trail. This is the end point. It's an amazing opportunity. It's starting to head in the direction of happening. I would like to ask that we do see an overall kind of vision for the whole park and area, so that then it gets easier for us to say, do this part of it, do that part of it. If I think the community and us at large has seen the design. So maybe when you're ready, we can come in and just see it in its entirety with, let's say, the adjacencies of the spaces next to it.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't second it. Someone else did, but.
Okay. Anyone else? More discussion?
Maybe
Michael, call the roll, please.
Maybe we should add that to the
motion.
Yep.
To the motion.
So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so it's clear we're not approving the design.
Yes.
Overall, we're not approving the design overall. It's approval to use the resources to begin sort of the implementation of this first phase.
The site preparation. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mandatory referral. It wasn't design review, but correct. So do you want to amend your motion?
Yes, I'll move approval with the request that as soon as the design is ready for review, that it come to the appropriate bodies and the planning commission.
Can I have a re-second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. East Design Review, new member nominations. Samira's the first one. Did everyone take a look at the resume? What do you guys want to do?
Move approval.
Second.
Downing.
Motion second, further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Okay. Did everyone look at Maraline's resume? And what would you like to do?
Move
Move to
approval.
approve. Second, Paul.
Okay, motion second. Further discussion? Michael?
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Freddie, do you have anything you want to add as a director's report?
Yeah, just two items real quick. One, the technical issues that you may have been experiencing, I think has to do with this platform, WebEx. We attend a lot of meetings on Zoom and other platforms that work extremely efficiently. So Dave, I do not have a Commodore computer. My system is extremely sophisticated, and I only have problems with WebEx as a platform. And Maurice and I have talked about this. I do know that there's some dialogue internally about utilizing potentially, Maurice, I think it's Microsoft Teams as a potential new platform. So I just want everybody to know that these issues are associated with the WebEx platform. They're not people's individual systems, I do not believe.
So Freddie, we use Teams.
Yes.
And if you ever want to try it out, we could try it out from our office.
Okay. Yep. And I think the city as a whole, because that's the WebEx is the platform that we use for all public meetings. They're looking into rethinking that as a body. So I think that's important to know.
Yeah.
Also,
we spend a lot of time looking into it. So you're more than welcome to try it out on us. And if you want to, and everyone gets their shots and everything, we could always have a commission. We have a pretty large room that we could all be socially distanced and with the backdrop of the river, if we want to do one here.
And speaking of that, which is my second item, I was able to speak to each of you individually with respect to the prospect of a on-site commission meeting, socially distant in the right format with the right spacing. And there was expressed by pretty much everyone. I know Lily and I, we had a meeting scheduled, but we're going to be rescheduling to chat. So everyone was comfortable under the right conditions. I know several individuals may have received their vaccines, but again, we're going to be very meticulous when we do that. And it's in reference to the adoption of a couple of major initiatives that we've been working on for the last year, which is Vision for the Valley and the Clark Fulton Neighborhood Master Plan. And the desire is to try to do something on location in the community. We would live stream. It would not be necessarily open to the broad public to be present. Literally, we're thinking presenters, commission members, and maybe a specific count of individuals that would be allowed into the space. So we're going to need a little bit of time to plan that out, but it's something that we really think is a good idea. If in fact we decide not to go that route, you'll know, and we'll conduct it in the normal virtual fashion. But we wanted to kind of get a pulse on really what everybody felt given the situation. And
okay,
that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
And Freddie, I think we could, if we needed to, we could also do a hybrid. I mean, I know we do that at our office because there's a handful of people that have other needs, and it could be a lot of things. So we just leave it open to them. And, if we have all, but 2 planning commission members and they dial in, that's also a possibility. It doesn't have to be 100%.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, I mean, obviously I was fortunate enough to get my first vaccination. And I'll have my second one in 3 weeks. But it's not just about people who are protected. It's folks who haven't received their vaccinations. So, we still need to be a higher level of safety and separation and wearing masks and social distancing and cleaning your hands. So let's not get cavalier because we all vaccinated. I don't think that'll be fair. So I just wanted to voice that concern. Thank you.
Well, I think that's why Freddie talked about people being socially distanced and having that capability and everything. I think everyone agrees with you, August, that even if we're together, we don't have to be on top of each other. We can be distant. We can find the appropriate places to do it.
Yeah, but I think
August, if we can't do it right, we won't do it at all.
But I think August's point is, since this is a public meeting and people won't have access if we go in person and they have either not been, I'm not talking about the commission itself, I'm talking about the general public who will need to have access to either a public hearing or a zoning matter or have some case. And if we create a scenario where we're fine going in person and there's no hybrid option, we might limit people's due process or access to the meeting. So I think that's kind of our concern in terms of forcing people into a scenario where they may not have been vaccinated or have some other issue to this point. So I think we should just be a little bit careful about that.
Well, yeah, no, and I think, Lillian, what you missed was that people aren't going to be coming to the meetings. Even though planning commission may be together, it still would be virtual too. So people may and would be presenting online like they are doing today.
Yeah, so I just observed at my office that never works. So I have to be honest, it's really hard to do a hybrid. We've tried it for board meetings and other things, and it is really worse. I have to be honest. If anyone else has experienced this, you really try to do that, you end up, everything gets lost in translation.
Well, here, I would say we have done it. We do it all the time. And it's actually worked pretty well. And maybe we'll take our IT person communicating with the city's IT people to tell them what we figured out. And there's still a couple of pieces of equipment we're still acquiring because we want it to be perfect, obviously.
So one thought, just to kind of add into what Lillian, where she was going. So if, say, for example, everyone here that's on the screen now, we can see each other. We were in the same location with a camera angle that allowed for every one of the commission members to be seen with the backdrop and a presentation material. We could live stream out from that one particular space. The one question that I would have is, as the presentations are going, is making sure that we're able to just basically put the presentation material on screen. Even if people are necessarily present in the audience where we'll be exchanging with them, it's really the room that's going to be in the camera, in the main camera. So there's some thinking that we need to do, and I hear what you guys are saying with respect to being able to pull it off and do it the right way, given some of the challenges that have happened in the past. But again, I'm going to emphasize, if we can't do it the right way, we will not do it. So I think we just need a few more weeks to kind of, explore, how it will operate. And then we can come back to you and kind of lay out sort of whether or not we think it's feasible. And again, if we think it's feasible and we're confident and we can do it, but if we're not confident, we will not go for it.
Hey, Freddie.
Yes.
I'll make it available to you if you want to talk to our people about the equipment we currently have and what we're upgrading to. I think that would be helpful because obviously it works for us, but they have found some things that actually work better. And we're in the process of acquiring it now.
I have to say I would be very interested in that because I think moving forward, even once we get, and I really haven't discussed this too much with Fred, but moving forward where we are doing the meetings in person again, I would hate to lose the ability to stream the meetings on YouTube.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I kind of see this as a, getting our foot in the door towards live streaming all of our boards and commission meetings. I think it's great transparency for people to be able to, watch these meetings from the comfort of their home.
That's right. I agree.
So I would be very interested in anything, David, that your company has learned on how to proceed forward with this.
Absolutely.
That's just my 2 cents.
And I want to raise this too. One thing that was emphasized in the symposium, in the conversation with Rick Jackson and I, and bit of a dangerous conversation, but I indicated, when we talk about the whole broadband access piece for the community, the broadband access piece and City Hall being automated are very much intertwined. Because in the future, we got to think that technology is going to have a big part of service delivery. And if people are going to be activated in their household citywide, which is ultimately the goal for all of us to get everyone quality broadband access, not just broadband access, but broadband access that actually works. Quality broadband access and making sure that City Hall is technologically up to speed so that that interface can occur with the public using technology. If we didn't learn anything from COVID, that's a huge thing that we have to really focus on, is making sure that connection is there, that they're synonymous. I mean, this is the people's building. So we have to be able to respond. And it's not okay. And that residents who may not have the ability to get connected, that we say, well, we can't go there because they're not ready. We have to get them ready. It's no longer an excuse not to have people connected. And I don't mean to preach, but this is something that's extremely important. And there needs to be a big investment in making sure that the technology is up to speed.
Oh my God, very well said.
Perfect.
11:34, guys. This is I love you, but let's get off this call.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.